Good morning, traders. This is Perry Wilkie with StartupTrading.com. It is OPEX day of November, Friday, November 15th. So looking back at yesterday's session, we finally got that crack of a liquidation break uh, going on, and it was for all of the indexes. Uh, they all had that excess in the first 30-minute period, and then just a slow trickle down after that. If you look at the all the indexes, they never were able to make any progress whatsoever across the VWAP yesterday, and just trickling down and closing near the lower end of the session for everything. If we look at what that did to structure, again we have those excess and A lines for all the indexes. That just means that there was a pretty big tail on the first 30-minute drive down that was never retraced. So there was no time ever given as an opportunity, right, to even get back close to the opening print for everything except for the Nasdaq. The Nasdaq tested it two more times later that day, but still had that little bit of a tail above. And then the Russell probably had the biggest disparity there. And then looking at the end of the day, right, we all had these underwater closes for everything except for the Russell, which is when you have trades go off after the 4 o'clock bell before the 5 o'clock session closes, Eastern time, New York, that you had trades go off below the bell, low of the day. And that can be a sign of capitulation. But what I always caution traders is instead of just jumping in saying this has to be a buy, it has to be capitulation, you want to see how the next session starts and goes, because this is up to the bears at this point in time to either press below that level, right? They have to keep it going below there, or bulls will just get really cocky really quick and not let it come back down towards that level anymore. So what we had in the overnight session was that continuation down, and where we've got to in the overnight low is down to 59.30.75 in the ES, and we have an untested point of control from 59.33 on this large spike day up. Right, this is the day post election. So since then we've had, including that day, we've had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This will be the eighth session, and we just kind of come right back down to it. So we're still testing the spike up from the election. We're still testing the breakout over what was the all-time high at that point in time, which was uh, 59.27 quarter for the future. So we're right around that check back. Um, and anywhere from here, I would say down to this next untested point of control, 58.78.75. That is, really where you're looking for potential support. But I wouldn't be, jumping in with both feet right now looking to get long. But I would watch these levels as if you're finding short opportunities to, use a little caution as we get down to there and not be too greedy at this point in time. Kind of watch how you're trailing. Use whatever mechanics you usually use to trail your trade, and don't let it. You could get some decent bounces and some whipsaw action down here potentially. And if we look at where we're at, and I'll be watching this, how I had it marked off on these. The futures contract was 20,760 for the Nasdaq. So we got down to 794. So basically, 35 points below where that overnight low was. There should be some support starting right in there, and potentially, you could crash all the way down into 20,517. That wouldn't be too much of a stretch for today. If the ES again can break through this uh, 59.25. If you remember, we had this level that we were watching before we had this rally. We were watching 57.25 basically, And if that broke, the next time that broke lower, it should have created a large vacuum to the downside. Well, that is what I call the edge of the abyss, because you're going to get a flush if you go into that level. Well, you got right to the edge of the abyss, right, and that's when you had that lift off also, uh, with some other technicals and some sequences Jack was watching. It all tied together pretty well right there. Uh, so now what we want to see is uh, this area that we're at right now, this 59.25 for the ES and this 20,760 for the Nasdaq. We need to be cautious with getting too greedy to the short side, right? As because this is areas of potential support. It doesn't mean we're gonna V rocket right out of here, but it means it could be a little bit of a frustration trade as we, sit there and dance around it before it potentially gives way. I will say if we flush through uh, these areas should be resistance on the way back up. If they're not, that is kind of like a look below and fail technically. Uh, we're testing the spike of the breakout. So overnight action for the ES, 43.5 points. For the indexes, you can see that the Russell is right at value very low, right at the settlement. It really hasn't done too much in the overnight session. And the rest of the indexes are holding below these underwater trades that we had last night. And for the ES and the NASDAQ, they've just basically went down to these single prints and are sitting there, getting fills, uh, and then, potentially going to repair some poor structure today. So if that does get filled, I would expect, if you look at where the settlement is, it's right at value area low. For the ES and the NASDAQ, the Dow is right at the high side of value area low. So I would expect any retracements up if we do get up there and do get back above, these underwater trade boxes, that is the potential resistance, and I would not be looking for anything long to go over that area, especially on a first test. It should, kind of stall there, maybe have shallow consolidation, then roll back down. Then we'll have to see if there's buyers when it retraces or not, depending on what time of the session that would happen at. Otherwise, there is the good potential that we don't get any of that, right? And off the bell down, we get another 30-minute spike down, that we have some more excess in A that holds, and then we're talking about that again on Monday. So for the Dow, you could get potentially all the way down to 43,130, but you have to get down through the 43,300s first. For the ES, again, watch this 59.13 to 59.25, which you got close to in the overnight session. And then you can see the next stop on the bus would be this 58.86 basically. And then for the Nasdaq, I think you're just watching really to see if you can get clear back and hold above 20,900 first, or if you're going to get stuck and held below and stay below this 843. That's all I really have. Keep it simple. If we look at positioning real quick before we let Jack show us what he's looking at here. We've got the Qs right now. They're trading 500 and 4 even. So 500 should be your floor. That would be about another 160 points down on the NQ. If you get on there, that should be your floor. Crossing over that, you could get some acceleration if the VIX is picking up. That would be a lot to do after, as far as we moved down yesterday, the overnight, to get down another 160 points and then start, rapidly falling. So I'd expect somewhere around this area between 499 and 501 to really start, putting in at least a stall, if nothing else, that you would probably have to bounce higher back up to 502, 503, and then maybe get a test back of it. Then we'll have to see what happens going into the close if you can, press under that, or if you're back above 505 after lunch, you could get a press back up towards 510 as a test sometime today. Looking at the SPY, you've got 590 even is where we're trading. You can see that that is a pretty large bump for today uh, as far as gamma goes. And then you could, just kind of use that as your swing point, basically for potentially another 50 points down to 585, or back up 40 points to 594. Looking at the cash market, 6,000 is going to be your wall. You should really have no business crossing back over 6,000 today. If we do get up, that would be uh, basically, we closed yesterday at 59.50 and we're down 35 points. So that would be 85 points up higher on the ES than we're currently trading right now around. So getting back up to those levels, that's some solid resistance, and you should expect no more, uh, at least on a first test. And the VIX would have to be really dropping, I think, to even get up there. There's probably a slim chance that you get all the way up to it for a touch. But with it being OPEX, this is where most of the contracts are today that are expiring today. So it can be a draw. So, don't get too cocky to one side or the other because these can be large draws for tests. But I would assume that you really can't surpass that level uh, today. I hope this helps. You guys have a great day. Have a